is the view of the form. So at the top, you can see how many have been submitted, and then it asks for some basic information about the activity, the specific activity that you're submitting. And then it asks for alignment details, which you might find to be the most challenging part of it. So just want to give you some tips of how to go about this. So this part's easy, right? My first name, last name, and email. Oops, maybe not easy. And then about the activity. So over on the right side of my screen, I have opened up an activity. I got to this through the Tech Goes Home website. If you've ever seen that, it is a good website with lots of different resources. I got it through Tech Goes Home, but you'll notice it's not created by Tech Goes Home. Does anybody have an idea of who created this Chromebook simulator? Could maybe even tell just from the font. It was created by Google, right? So that's one important thing to note, that sometimes like you're going to these websites and you're finding a great resource, make sure you pay attention to where the actual activity is and who created it, instead of just the path that you use to get there. Okay, so about this activity, the publisher, what is the name of the publisher, website, person who created this activity? I'm going to put Google here. And then I'm also going to put Google for the source. What is the name, title of website, resource, where this activity can be located? I'm actually going to add here Google Chromebook Simulator, because that seems to be the name of the site. I'm not sure, other than going through Tech Goes Home, how you would get here. So I'm just going to add that extra bit of information. Now, note that this is an art, not a science. So it's, you know, sometimes like what to put where might get confusing. And that's why we have a review process to make sure that we check everything over and it's accessible. So then it asks for the activity URL. I'm going to grab that just from my address bar. I copied it and I'm going to paste it here. Activity title, again, I'm going to call it a Chromebook simulator. That's what the activity is. And that's how it's listed. Oops, there we go. Then it asks for an overview. Now, sometimes you can find a really great overview, like GCF Learn Free gives us the overviews. It always says like, learn how to send an email using Gmail or something like that. In this case, I didn't find an overview here. It's possible that Tech Goes Home had an overview. I don't remember. But what I'm going to do is just create my own. So it's a Chromebook simulator. So really they are practicing more than learning. So I'm going to put practice using a Chromebook in this simulator. Okay. It can be brief and very simple. Then I go to the activity format. And I would select from here simulation. Now there was a good question about YouTube video, right? So that would be more up here in the publisher and source. Okay, so I'm gonna jump back to that before I continue with the form and address that. If you find a video on YouTube, it's really important to put in here who created the video. So we're not putting YouTube because they didn't create the video, right? Jeff, do you want to add any comments about that? Because you were in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, about YouTube or just about the
YouTube?
source?
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube. Yeah, YouTube is not a source. Just so if you're finding videos on YouTube, which many of us do, YouTube is just a website, right? The source is who actually created the content. And so on any YouTube video, below the video player, it will say the name of the content creator. So that's what you're going to put into the source if you're on something like YouTube.
Yeah, so I'm just like putting in little random examples, but it depends like how they named themselves in Gmail or whatever for the source, but it would not be YouTube. Okay, great. Let me put back my source. Okay. All right, so I selected simulation here. This is a simulation. It's like something that I can click on and kind of get, I'm in an environment that is mimicking the environment of actually owning a Chromebook. And then attribution, I did look for this earlier, and I didn't see any Creative Commons licenses on here. I know it's created by Google. And so I know that it's copyrighted. I wouldn't be able to do much by this. But if you're not sure, it's okay to just put, I'm not sure. And then during that review process, we'll go and check and make sure we have the right attribution on there. If you can provide it, that saves us a step. So that's great. And then I get to the alignment. Now this part is a little tricky. You need to know the digital skills framework more or less to be able to align. So you guys are the perfect people to be aligning stuff because you know the skills so well. There is a link to view the whole list, and I would recommend opening that before you even get started in looking at the alignment. So I'm looking at this. This is showing me the device. I need to make sure I know the activity pretty well before I try to align it, right? So what is covered? I see explore your Chromebook. I'm not going to go through this whole process with you guys right now because I don't want to spend too much time. But I would go and kind of explore and see everything that's covered in my activity. And then I'll go through the list of skills and see what skills align to what's covered in my activity, right? So I know that there's this section on fixing Chromebook problems, and I would call that troubleshooting, right? So I could say that device ownership, fix technical problems would be a skill that aligns, okay? There are others in here. There are manage your files. That's another digital skill. Accessibility features is another one, right? So there are more, but for our purposes, I'm just going to align it to this one skill. So before you go and start aligning, I recommend you go through the whole list and identify what skills you're going to align to, okay? You don't need to try and align it to more. Just align it to exactly what it's covering. It might cover 1, it might cover 4. Make sure that you include them. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the form. Now, when I get to the domain, I have to select all of the domains that apply before I start choosing skills. Okay, so I know I identified device ownership, and maybe you, in that process of finding skills, identified more than one. So you want to make sure to select all of the domains that apply before you select the skills. Okay. And if you added a domain here, but it actually is not, it's okay. Just don't check any of the skills in it and it won't cause any problems. But the thing about it is that if I go up here now, let's say I've selected a few, okay, I know these ones, and I go up here and I make a change in domain, well, it's reset my skills, okay? So that's why it's important to add all the domains that you know apply, and then go to the skills and make your selections. And you might decide, okay, it's not privacy and security. I'm only going to align it just to this one here. And that's fine. Okay, so I check it. You can add tags and keywords. So here are plenty of examples: algorithms, data, computational thinking. I'll put device on here, and I'll put printing. I mean, just whatever keywords you think would be helpful if somebody's searching for the resource. And then additional comments or input regarding this resource. So here, it would be helpful to know available in other languages or mobile friendly and all of that. Yeah, and we are working on fixing the domain skill thing, but that's how it is at the moment. Okay.
And before you had submit, Rachel, so the thing that we brought up, or was brought up by Kate, and when we were looking at, she was talking about there was a PBS station that she was on their website, and she found a really great video. And it also had other resources. It had the video available in Spanish. It had, alternate things that went with that one video. But the video is also on YouTube. And so her question was, what should I submit? Because I could submit the YouTube video, but then you're not going to know that there's like other things that go with it. And that's just like one example. Like another example is like the FTC has great resources. And again, their videos are in YouTube, but if you're on the website, you see that the video is in English and in Spanish. You see that there's actually downloadable versions of the video, and they also have the YouTube version. So that's a great place in the additional comments to make notes about things like that. And so for things like Crash Course is another one we looked at, where there's a great website. When in doubt, I would say, like, give the original URL, the website URL, not the YouTube URL, if it's like a video that has other things that go with it, because we can always find the YouTube video URL. It's usually on the video player itself, like that you can just watch this in YouTube. And we'll figure out the way to make sure that like both of those URLs are available in the activity records so that teachers know that both exist.
Yeah. Okay. And then I click submit. And there's another resource in the library. So